I'm sure this isn't news to you, but due to COVID-19, there is a lot going on in the RV industry right now. And if you're in the market to purchase a new RV, then as a wise consumer, you need to be armed with knowledge as well as options. So let's talk about it. So let's start with the obvious, and that is there is a huge demand on RVs right now. Many people don't feel comfortable flying in airplanes, staying in hotels, and so lots of folks are beginning to learn the joys and the pleasures of RV travel. And when they start to put a push or a demand on RV sales, then that means the supply is also affected. And in this case, there is a high demand and a low supply, not just for new RVs, brand new RVs, but also for used RVs. I was told by a local dealer, as soon as a used RV hits the lot, it is gone just as fast. And for brand new RVs, manufacturers are having a hard time keeping up with the orders that they already have. The orders that are being filled right now, many of them are what they call retail sold RVs, which means a consumer has already paid for this particular RV to be manufactured. So when it is done, it is already sold. It is not going to be a wholesale RV where it goes to a dealership and sits on the lot and waits for a buyer to come and purchase it. Many of the RVs that are coming out right now have been on order and bought by a consumer already. So what does that mean for you if you're looking for an RV to purchase right now? Well, it means a couple of things. It means that when demand is high, supply is low, there is very little room for negotiations. That means when you go in, it's going to be very hard for you to negotiate the deal that you really want to negotiate that you would normally be able to negotiate outside of this pandemic environment, because they know that if you decide you don't want to purchase this RV, well, the next person coming in the door behind you most likely will. So there's very little room right now for negotiations. And it also means that if you do find an RV that you're interested in, gone are the days of, let me take your card, I'll think about it, and I'll give you a call. You really need to be ready to move if you find what you're looking for, and make sure you have everything in place to make the deal should you find the RV that you want to buy. So a couple of things that you need to know when buying an RV in this COVID-19 environment is that manufacturers are not known for their great quality control. I know plenty of instances where people have purchased RVs that came from the manufacturer with issues. And many of them are simple issues that could have been caught with a simple, regular, routine maintenance control check. For example, maybe they purchased in the summertime and the air conditioner was working fine, but in the fall when they turned on the heat, the installation wasn't done properly. Just something wasn't plugged in correctly and the heat didn't work. Also, I know of an instance where a leak has happened inside an RV because there was a seam that did not have sealant on it. So these are things that can happen in a normal RV buying environment. Can you imagine what might happen when they're rushing to try to fill these orders really quickly and get these RVs out to consumers? Things can fall through the cracks. And that's the reason why you may hear RV owners suggest that you buy a used RV, because they use this phrase, all the kinks have been worked out of it. And that's what they're talking about. It has been used, and anything that the manufacturer may have neglected to do has been found and corrected by the time it is resold to a second owner. So as a consumer, here's my suggestion, that you treat a new RV purchase just like you would treat a used RV purchase. In other words, take your checklist. If you're going through a walkthrough with your seller, make sure that you have your checklist with you. And I found online a very thorough checklist. I, of course, did not create it. I found it, but I really think it has a lot of good stuff in it. It is extremely thorough. So I will link it in the description box for you to print it off and go through it so that you will know some of the things you need to make sure to check out if you're going to purchase a new RV. Obviously, if you're purchasing a used RV, you would do this check and hire an inspector if you want to, and then maybe even hire an inspector for a new RV in this climate. But at the least, at the very minimum, make sure you have a checklist with you so that you will know the things that you need to look out for. Don't assume because it's brand new that it just came back from the manufacturer. Maybe it still has plastic on the seats and on the floor, that it is good to go, because that may not be the case. Now, remember when I said that you need to be armed with knowledge and options? Well, in the options category, I'm really talking about being armed with financing options. So the first thing I want to say, whenever you can write a check and not finance, to me, in my opinion, I think that's always the best option. But I do understand that there are times when financing is something that you must do. My advice to you is to be smart when you're making a financing decision. And this is something that I learned from my parents, that my husband and I, we've been married 28 years. This is something that we practice and something that I taught my children, and it has served me well. So what my suggestion is that you secure your money first before you go out searching for the RV, because you really don't have a lot of time and you want to go ahead and go armed the best way that you can. I suggest you call your banks, you call your credit union, whoever you have a banking relationship with, start there and see if you can go ahead and get a pre-approval, know how much RV you want to buy, and know about what your payments should be and what you're comfortable making. So if you go ahead and get that taken care of, when you go to the lot, you will be in a better position to do the little negotiations that you'll be able to do. So let me go in a little deeper to explain to you what I'm talking about. And first of all, before I go any further, I want to say that I am not by any means putting a blanket on every single RV dealership in the country. It may not be the way every single one operates, because I know that there are some good, reputable dealerships who are very interested in giving their customers the best deal that they can. But there are many who operate like this. Let's say you go to the dealership. The first thing your salesperson may ask you, besides hello, what brings you in today, is, well, what kind of payment are you looking for? They want you to tell them how much money you want to spend per month on your RV payment. And why do they want to know this? The minute you tell them a dollar amount, you have ended your negotiations. And I'm going to say that again. The minute you tell them a dollar amount of what you want to spend a month, you have ended your negotiations. Now again, this is not everyone, but this I would venture to say most. And put in the comments if this has ever happened to you. If you've ever went to make a major purchase, a house, a car, or whatever, one of the first questions that come out is how much you want to spend a month. I'm going to tell you why that question is important to the sellers. So let's say you tell them, I don't want to spend no more than $450 a month on my RV payment. So they go through and they take you through some options. You find the one you're looking for, but then you say to them, well, I like this, but I want to offer you $10,000 less. Because you already know kind of, where you want your payments to be. And you think if you offer them $10,000 less, you're haggling, you're dealing, you may get a better deal for yourself. The salesperson says, okay, let me go talk to my manager. So behind those closed doors, here's what's happening. The salesman says to the manager, they want this RV, they've offered $10,000 less, and they want to pay around $450 a month. So the sales manager starts crunching numbers and he says, oh, okay, you know what? I can get them around that $450 mark, but we don't have to take $10,000 off. I can only take off $4,000. So the salesman comes back to the customer and says, I got some good news. we can get your payment close to where you want it, $465. But we can't knock off $10,000 off the price. It's pretty much marked down as low as it can go. We only can take off about $4,000, but that will get you in that $465 payment, and they wait for you to respond, and they're hoping you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, it's just $15 a month. Well, okay, you got a deal. Now, the reason why I said earlier that once you give them a price, what you want to spend a month, you have ended your negotiations, because most dealerships, again, not all, but most dealerships are not going to negotiate lower than what you're willing to pay. They're going to make sure they stay within what you said you're willing to pay. Let's just say you go in and there is no money to be discussed, because guess what? You have a pre-approval. You went to your bank or your credit union, or there are some financing companies online that specialize in financing RVs that you may be able to get a good interest rate with, so you can check them as well. But let's say you did your homework and you came ready and prepared and you had options. How do you know you're getting a good deal if you don't have options? You did your homework and you don't have to discuss any money with them. Only thing you need to do is find the RV that you want and negotiate the price. A lot of times when people accept deals based on what the monthly cost is, they don't know how much they're paying for the RV, much less ask questions about what the interest rate is. All they know is, I got $465. It's not exactly where I wanted to be, but it's only $15 more, so I'm good. Whereas what would have happened if you found the RV that you wanted and you just negotiated price without them deciding on how much they're going to take off based on what you're going to pay? What if they didn't know that and you were able to negotiate strictly on the price? How do you think those tables would turn? It lets you take back the power. You don't have to go in and accept the deal that they're going to give you because you don't have any options. You do have options. My advice is take the time to do your homework. Go in there with at least a pre-approval from an outside company so that you don't even have to get them involved in your financing. Now, am I saying you should never take a financing deal from the dealerships? No, I am not saying that, because I do realize that dealerships oftentimes can give you incentives because of the relationships they have with the lenders you may not be able to get on your own. It's okay to listen to what deal they have, but if it's not what you want, if it's not the $10,000 that you want off, maybe the interest rate is not where it needs to be, you have an option. And that's what it's about. In this time right now, you have very limited amount of negotiations you can do. So take control of what you can control, and that is you can make a decision on how you want to pay for your RV. If you want to use dealership financing, or if you find a better deal outside. To sum everything up, guys, don't be in a hurry. Don't feel panicked because there is not a lot of options in terms of inventory out there. Still take your time. So make sure you do your own quality control check. Have your checklist with you. And then also make sure that you understand your real options. You don't have to take the dealership deal. You do have options if you need to finance your RV. So I hope this information has been helpful to you. And I just want you guys to be safe out there and be careful, because even though we're in this situation with COVID-19, there are still some good deals that could be made if you are armed with knowledge and you know your options. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if it's been helpful to you. If you want more RV with Soul, then watch these recommended videos. Thanks for watching.